that I could receive some feedback from you, right? On how you felt thinking about that moment in your life in the past where you were demanded to do something that you didn't want to do. So I'm going to be sharing my screen again. So I can continue. And well, in my reflection and in this path that I had through consciousness or becoming aware of how I was interacting with my students, I realized that my students were in survival state and I was in survival state. If my students felt not safe in the class, it was almost impossible for them to learn the language as I am. And if I didn't allow myself to be just a human being in the classroom as they are and not, the teacher with this authority, with power over my students, then we were not going to feel like a community. We were not going to feel that we were safe. So Sarah Hart and Victoria Kindle, they say that survival thinking makes learning impossible. And being conscious of that, it's a path or it's going to help us reconstruct or disrupt the traditional language learning that we have right now. So how do we do it? How do we do that? How do we go from, am I safe here in this place, in this classroom, in this community, to how do I go from there to what can I learn from this? I feel completely safe. I feel completely part of this community. How do we go from survival state to this emotional state, this executive state, where I am not in my mind consciousness judging. I am just internalizing the language. Yeah. Number one is to be conscious of the fact that the way that we communicate in this moment of our life, in the world, in the majority of the learning environment, is through blame, through shame, through judgment, through demands, through reward, through criticism. Yeah? So one of the first exercises that has helped me a lot in disrupting this is to really ask myself, before eliminating this part of blame and shame and judgment, is to really ask myself, when do I blame? Before eliminating anything, before learning the language, I need to be aware or I need to be conscious of how I am communicating with my students, with other people, and how I am communicating with myself. And everything needs to be connected, not only to consciousness, like to be aware of it, but that has to be connected to authenticity, to honesty as a human being. That needs to be really connected to my values, to who I am as a person, not to my role, not to the teacher role, but to the human being that I am. Yes, and what do I value? So one of the exercises that has helped me a lot is to really ask myself, when do I blame? When do I feel shame as a teacher? What does making a demand involve? When am I demanding my students? When I am not taking into consideration my students' needs, because we have needs in common. That's what makes us human, and that's what makes us very similar. That is the common denominator. The fact that we have needs. Yeah. The second exercise is, how am I communicating as a teacher? How am I communicating with my students? Am I blaming them? And am I criticizing? Am I blaming myself as a teacher? How am I interacting with myself? How much love I am giving myself? So being conscious of that is something that can disrupt the way that, I'm teaching and the way that my students are learning. Yeah. Listening to my students' needs and listening to my needs will help us really create a safe place in the classroom where language learning is going to be completely important. Before language learning, there is connection and empathy. Yeah, and before fixing, because, in traditional language learning, teachers are fixers. We are always trying to fix things or help or support before connecting, before really listening to our needs and our students' needs. Yeah. So the next aspect would be, am I aware of my intention or what I want to communicate to my students? Marshall Rosenberg in Nonviolent Communication, he says that every judgment that we make brings a jewel behind. It brings something precious. Behind a judgment, there is something that I value as a person. So if I say, oh my God, I don't like these foods, it's probably because I really want something different. I am saying yes to maybe pleasure or maybe to feel comfortable with what I'm eating. If I say, oh my God, it's very hot in here, probably I need to feel comfortable, or probably I need to drink something. So behind every judgment that I make or behind every demand, there is something that I'm needing. So really being conscious of what I'm feeling and what I'm needing as a teacher, and being conscious of what my students are needing or what my students are feeling in the classroom, it's a key to really disrupt the traditional language learning that we have in the classroom, because it's not going to be learning before connecting. It's going to be creating a safe place and connecting before learning. But I'm going to continue until you let me know then. I believe that I still have 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So I really would like to give you some other tips, right, that have helped me in building this safe space in the classroom. There was one teacher that one day he approached me and he told me, hey, Darzeé, I need to talk to you. And the thing is, he said, that I'm not connecting in the class. I am not feeling I am connecting, and my students are not connecting to the content. And I said, the first thing I said was, are you present to what you're feeling more than your thoughts? What kind of thoughts are you having? And in here, I also told him that in order for us to really connect with our students and with what we're teaching, the content that we're teaching, it is very important to use this mind consciousness that Thich Nhat Hanh mentioned, to really observe, to really hold on to facts, not to your thoughts. To really be conscious of when you're having a thought that is disconnecting you from reality, and when you are really present to what is really going on, to what you see, to what you hear, to what you feel. The second tip is to really remember that whenever a person makes a judgment, it's not about you. It's not personal. Whenever a person makes a judgment, it's because there is something that the person is really feeling and needing, and there's a lot of pain inside. Yeah? And sometimes when we are not connecting to our students, something that has helped me a lot is to accept the disconnection. There are two types, for me, there are two types of mournings. This of resistance and the one of acceptance. So when a person dies, for example, that is very close to us, one of the things that really help us is accepting that the person passed away. And it's going to be painful, but it's more liberating when we accept than when we resist. So sometimes it is just human to accept the disconnection that there is in my class. And finally, I have this example of one task that you can apply in your classroom when there is, for example, a task like this that you assign to your students. Let's say that you're going to assign them to do an essay. How can you take into consideration your students' needs and feelings in order for them to be heard in the classroom? So one of the techniques to make your students feel heard is to ask. Sorry, I think I stopped sharing. One of the techniques or skills would be to really ask your students to make a list of things that you as a teacher are choosing in this task. So my students sometimes, when I assign a task, I tell them, guys, what am I choosing for you in this task? And they say, well, teacher, I really would like to do a 50-word essay. I really wouldn't like to do a 150-word essay. And I say, okay, that's okay. Maybe you want to feel more. Maybe you need autonomy. Maybe that student needs autonomy to really be able to choose in that task. Other times, instead of asking them that, I tell them, make a list of choices that you would make in this task. And they say, well, teacher, I would put this topic. I would write about this topic. And I say, okay, that's okay. So I believe that instead of demand, instead of imposing, instead of an obligation, instead of a you must. We need to be conscious of the fact. Oh, I see some comments here. Thank you. I believe that vulnerability needs to come into the play in the classroom. I believe that we need to spend some time in compassionate communication activities or community builders. I believe that in order to create a safe place or a place where we feel that there is trust and freedom, we need to forget the role of teacher and student and to see each other as human beings from a place of consciousness where all of us need to help each other take care of those needs, because we all teach and learn traditionally is to really connect or teach. It's to really be aware that everything that we do and everything our students do, we don't do it to receive something or to expect something, and really be conscious of the fact that everything we do and everything our students do enriches our life. We do not want to receive something from them. Just to say, well, if I tell them this, they're going to get motivated. No. We really would like to do it from a place where we are conscious of the fact that everything they do and everything we do is enriching our life. Yeah? With authentic generosity, with honesty.